I began by sketching out my composition using a grey coloured pencil rather than a white one. Grey gives less contrast on the paper, which makes it easier to cover over later on if you make a mistake or you want to change something in the drawing. I then started blocking in some of my lighter areas using a white pencil, but I kept the pressure light to give a mid-tone rather than a very bright white. I didn't want to commit myself too early, but preferred to build up the tones as I would if I was doing a conventional drawing onto white paper. I started adding in some colour, limiting myself to blues and yellows. To draw the tree hanging with snow on the foreground of the right-hand side, I used the pencil more heavily to create contrast and pull it forward in the drawing. I also used a different kind of mark making here, again for added contrast. As the white pencil was quite opaque, I was able to add some obvious yellow highlights to indicate the sunlight reflecting off the snow. I put a light wash of a warmer yellow pencil across the area of white in the lower right of the drawing to make it look like the sun falling on the snow here. I also added in some blue highlights which would contrast with the yellow and bring out its warmth. I built up areas of coloured pencil in the ground to represent the mounds of snow. I tried to introduce contrast in areas where the paper was visible and other parts which were covered by the pencil completely. I varied the direction of my mark making here, both to show the form and also to create the impression of the unevenness of the ground. I used some darker pencils later on to add depth to the colour, and I was also able to add in some fine detail of branches on the tree, working across the existing white pencil in a dark blue one. I added in some slightly lighter areas around the tree trunk, just to create a bit more contrast here to bring the tree out. But generally, all the way through the drawing, I used a light pressure for the tone in the sky, and I kept some of the black of the paper coming through. I was essentially trying to keep the sky in the distance as quite low contrast with the paper, as we would do in many drawings to create the impression of atmospheric perspective. To create focal points on the tops of the gravestones in the foreground, I created extra definition with heavy white pencil placed next to the areas of open black paper to give maximum contrast.